Howdy, y'all. Frankie here, New West Reset. Hello, how's it going? Welcome back. Thank you very much for shooting in. Joining a fella here for another one. Another live one, as a matter of fact. New West Reset Live. Episode 128 here today on this Sunday, July 13th, 2025. About 5 minutes past 5, just a scotch. Past 5 p.m. local time. That's mountain time, don't you know? Because as usual, coming at you live in the foothills of the beautiful Canadian Rocky Mountains. Yep, here in Calgary, southern Alberta, Purdy, Alberta, up in Canada land. Thanks for joining me here for the show, the Sunday live show. And this is kind of the Calgary Stampede, the Calgary Exhibition, the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede Rodeo wind-down show for this year. Started week before last on Friday, July the 4th, America Day. And today's the last day. So you get a week and you get 1 week in the middle and a weekend on either end. So we get 10 days of the Wild West Rodeo out here. So thanks for joining me here. Appreciate it. Thanks for winding down your weekend here with yours truly on the Sunday Fun Day. Woo! Woo! So for the show today, we're going to have a look at the buffalo hunt or the bison hunt, practically the annihilation of two species of buffalo in North America, really, in Canada land, but down in the good old US of A as well. Then we'll take a mid-show break, and when we come back, we're going to look at the Mohawk Nation. Because when I was researching the buffalo and their territory, I didn't realize that they were as far east as the Great Lakes. I always thought that buffalo were basically a Great Plains or a prairies type of animal. But nope, they went all the way to the Great Lakes and all the way down into the southern United States. So it's no wonder the Mohawk hunted them as well, because I didn't think the Mohawk would bother chasing buffalo around all over the place. They're right there on the Great Lakes. There's plenty of food there. So that was kind of shocking and surprising. So I thought I'd share a little bit of that with you as well. We do have Mohawk up here in Canada land, southern Ontario. But I think their population is a lot larger in the United States, if I am not mistaken. So if you haven't already, please give a fellow one of these. It just kind of helps to push me out into the algorithm there a little bit as we make our way towards 2,000 subscribers. Thanks to everybody who's already shared and subscribed. Appreciate that. If you haven't subscribed, hey, come on, man. Come on, man. Help a guy out here, will you? Was it that one YouTuber says, because I'm struggling here. If you're watching this after the live, thank you very, very much. I really appreciate all of your support, as always. Leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you're doing. And speaking of how's everyone doing, let's say hello to everybody in the chat, in the box here, and see what's going on, what's happening, how everybody's doing, so on and so forth. I think I saw Hippie here. Yeah, Hippie Shake is here. There she is. Hi, Hippie. Hello. Good to see you. How's it going? Kathy Broughton in the box. Howdy. Well, howdy there, buckaroo. Good to see you. But Babylon Fox is here. Finally made it. Been a while. Good to see you. Good to see you as always. Thanks for winding down your weekend there with us, Stephanie. Good to see you. Who else we got here? Oh, I see someone. Title! Title's here. Hey, cowboy guy. Look, Title's here. We quit feeding the horse for a second. Yeah, right here. Title. Ah. Howdy, Title. How you doing? Hello, hello, hello. Channel 53 in the box. Hello. Baja's here as well. To see all of you. Thanks for joining me here, eh? Appreciate it. There's Mo. Mo. Howdy, Mo. Mo Sampson in the box. I'm not here. Carry on, says Vaughn. Good to see you, brother. How are you? Hello. Hello there. You crazy. You're crazy. I got to do something here. I just realized something. We're always broadcasting simultaneously live on the HooTubes and on the Bumble. But I just realized I forgot to connect the two. So, boop, there we go. We should be live now on the green fighting platform, the Rumble. Sorry about that. Howdy, everybody on Rumble. Howdy, everybody on YouTube. So as mentioned, we're going to cover the bison. We're going to cover the Mohawk Nation. Links below for everything our fellow's going to talk about here. They're partners, as well as a link to my location map. All the places in Alberta here I've done boots on the ground, courtesy of Cousin Vinny. And as mentioned, link for Rumble, as well as all my other socials. MeWe, BitChute. The guy's email too, if you want to email me. Love to hear from you. Everything below. And if you want to make a donation to the channel, which is not necessary, but I do appreciate it, PayPal link there as well. You make a donation, I'll send you a t-shirt. Yep, that's the deal. That's the deal. Boss is old Wilf Carter. Got to check him out. Yeah, there he is. There's Wilf Carter. It's one of my Wilf Carter albums. I have actually 3 Wilf Carter albums, but most of them are compilation albums of his old 78 RPM old-timey records. It's very country western, you know what I mean? Which isn't necessarily my bag, but I dig the fact that Wilf Carter's from Calgary and he was an actual cowboy. In the States, he was known as Montana Slim. So there you go. Montana Slim, Wilf Carter. Speaking of old Wilf, halfway through the show when we take our mid-show break, and I give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek, this one again will be a unique, exclusive one to the live only, because the Wednesday vintage footage video that's going to be coming up next week, or this coming Wednesday, it's a bit of a longer video, and I don't want to spoil it. So instead, we're going to have a look at some vintage Calgary Stampede footage, and old Wilf is going to sing us a tune while we do so. All right. So let's see what's going on here. Well, I got to say, first of all, I got to say a proper Western greeting. Give you a hearty howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner. Howdy, partner. Howdy, partner. Partner. Howdy, partner.
Old World Mi'kmaq in the box. Hello, howdy. Howdy, how you doing? Babylon Fox says you got to wonder how a goofy-looking guy named Wilf made it through middle school alive. Howdy, Needap. Howdy, welcome. Yeah, you know, Wilf, wait, short for Wilfred, which ain't much better, if you ask me. You know, the poor fella. I mean, I guess there's worse names out there, but Wolf is not. It's not the best. It's not the best. But he did fine with the ladies there, Stephanie. He did just fine with the ladies because he could sing them romantic cowboy songs, and he was a pro rodeo guy. I can't remember what he competed in the rodeo. I think it was the saddle bronc, the bucking bronco. It doesn't matter what event you participate in the rodeo. You got to be pretty tough. Got to be pretty tough, I would say. All right, so yeah, well, let's get to it. What do you say? Real quick. Links below, as mentioned. But real quick here, I want to just share with you, as a reminder, a little bit about the Calgary exhibition and Stampede. I'm talking about it. You might as well know about it. If you missed last week's show, I do this every year for the Stampede. I do something Wild West related for the live show and for the boots on the ground. But the Calgary Stampede is an annual rodeo, exhibition, and festival held every July in Calgary, Alberta, Canada land. The 10-day event, which bills itself as the greatest outdoor show on earth, attracts over 1 million visitors per year and features one of the world's largest rodeos, a parade, midway, stage shows, concerts, agricultural competitions, chuck wagon racing, First Nations exhibitions. And in 2008, the Calgary Stampede was inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. Took them long enough. The thing's been going for 100 years, for pity's sakes. Anyways, real quick here, the event's roots are traced to 1886, when Calgary had about 500 people. When the Calgary and District Agricultural Society held its first fair. I wonder how many people showed up to that, by the way. In 1912, American promoter Guy Wiedeck, we've looked at him on the channel in the past. A very interesting character, P.T. Barnum-esque guy. Anyways, he organized his first rodeo and festival, known as the Stampede. He returned to Calgary in 1919, post-WW1, to organize the Victory Stampede in honor of the soldiers returning from said war. Wiedeck's festival became an annual event in 1923 when it merged with the Industrial Exhibition to create the Exhibition and Stampede. Last week we looked at these fellas, the Big Four, the financiers, the prairie robber barons, the land barons, and they had their toes dipped in all kinds of different pools, those fellas. But yeah, link below. This is just the standard Wikipedia. But, I mean, it's always good for shits and giggles. Oh, look at this glorious old Stampede Park gate entrance. Doesn't look like that anymore. No, it looks like a big modern facility now. Hey, look, the Mounties marching in the parade. There's the barrel racers. That's a ladies' event, and they whoop ass. You never seen a horse go so fast as these horses. There's one of my favorites, and probably my ultimate favorite, is the chuck wagon races. The Rangeland Derby. The Rangeland Derby. But we call it the Chucks up here there, eh, bud? Wiley's here. Wiley Metz in the box. Howdy, bud. Speaking of Montana Slim, Wiley's down there in Montana, don't you know? Blacksmith competition. That's fun to watch. There's the rodeo grounds, the grandstands there. You got, there's the circuit for the chuck wagons. You got the corral with the rodeo and the bucking bronco stuff going on here, and so on and so forth. There's the Saddle Dome. That's right. Our professional arena is called the Saddle Dome. We play some hockey in there. Patsy Rogers was the very first Stampede Queen in 1946, and here she is in the 2008 parade as the parade marshal. That's pretty good. Water to the Tree is here all the way from Kansas City, Missouri. Good to see you, bud. Howdy. There's the quote-unquote Indian village. Not allowed to call it that anymore, even though the indigenous peoples themselves refer to it as the Indian village. I guess it's okay for them. The file name is called Indian Village. So there it is. But anyways, this is set up along the banks of the Elbow River in the little park area on the rodeo grounds. The Blackfoot Nation set up their teepees, and they actually camped there for the 10 days. Some of the show, the grandstand show. What's going on here? Oh, some protesters. Yeah, I guess you're going to get them. Oh, there you go. Coming out the chute. Rodeo clown right here. That bull looks big and mean. So there's one of the new gates. Oh no, this is Chinook Center Pancake Breakfast. Here's one of the free Stampede flapjack and sausage or bacon pancake breakfasts. Free! You pretty much throw a dart at a map of the city of Calgary in the 10 days of the Stampede. And wherever that hits, within a 10-block radius of that dart, there's going to be a free pancake breakfast. You can lock it, put it in your pocket, and take that straight to the bank. There's the Midway with some of the rides. It's always a good time. Gets you some corn dogs, some hot dogs, mini donuts, cotton candy, caramel corn, you know. Yeah, you can't have rodeo in the middle of the summertime without having some crazy Canadians freezing over the surface and skating on it. Saddle bronc? Yep, there's a saddle on it. Because we have bareback bronco busting and we have saddleback bronco busting. Oh, there's your big four. What's this here? 1923 Stampede Parade. Ah, very interesting. And back to the old gates. There you go. So yeah, link below for the Wikipedia on the Calgary Stampede. We're staying on the Wikipedia, but we're gonna jump to the bison now, or the buffalo. We'll have a quick look at the buffalo and then the buffalo hunt. And then we'll take a mid-show break. Viewer discretion advised, by the way. Some of the photos we're going to look at in the second half of the show. Again, not a huge folder, just a couple of dozen photos. But they're going to be showing buffalo that have already been hunted, if you catch my drift. Jesse Nick says, I didn't know the rodeo was still huge up there. Oh, yeah. The Calgary Stampede is one of the biggest rodeos in the world. Some of the richest payoffs and whatnot. We get cowboys coming from all the way from the Maritimes or, Quebec, all across Canada, up into the Yukon, Alaska, Northwest Territories up in there. All over from the United States, from the Dakotas to Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Texas, Tennessee. Anywhere where there's a horse and a dude who's going to ride it, yeah, there's going to be a cowboy, and he's going to end up competing. I think it was day 2. I was watching the highlights. There was a cowboy from Argentina. But yeah, they come from Mexico and South America. It's pretty cool. It's kind of a big deal. Anyways, let's have a look at this Wikipedia and what it says about the buffalo or the bison. Bison is a large bovine. The genus bison, from the Greek meaning wild ox, within the tribe Bovini. To extent and numerous extinct species are recognized. Of the 2 surviving species, the American bison, or bee bison, found only in North America, is the most numerous. Although colloquially referred to as buffalo in the United States and Canada land, it's only distantly related to the true buffalo, which is this thing here. The North American species is comprised of 2 subspecies, the plains bison, bee bison, and the generally more northern wood bison, B. athabascae. A third subspecies, the eastern bison, is no longer considered a valid taxon. Being a junior synonym of baby bison, historically refers to woods bison or wood bison from the eastern United States, refer to this cinnamon animal in their eastern woodland habitat. The run-on sentence there, Wikipedia. Basically what they're saying is there used to be a whole different bunch of species and subspecies of bison. The eastern bison, the woodland bison, the plains bison, the north bison, but some of them died out. So while bison species have been traditionally classified in their own genus, modern genetics indicate that they are nested within the genus Bos, which includes, among others, cattle, yaks, gaur, I don't know, what is that thing? It's a large bovine native to the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. Looks like, kind of looks like a water buffalo there, man. So the American bison and the European bison, or the wisent, are the largest surviving terrestrial animals in North America and Europe. Typically cloven-hooved undulates, similar in appearance to other bovines such as cattle and true buffalo. Broad and muscular with shaggy coats of long hair, adults grow up to 2 meters or 6'7" tall in height, and 3.5 meters or 11 foot 6 inches, almost 12 feet in length for the American bison. That's big. Anywhere from 400 to almost 1,300 kilograms or 880 to 2,800 pounds. 2,800 pounds? Yeah, there's a siren. Shout out to Terry Light. Wouldn't be a live show without a siren. We're going to get extra sirens during the Stampede because, you know, the Wild West partying and, you know, all kinds of goofy shenanigans. Anyway. Yeah, it doesn't get as cold there, so they don't have the shaggy hairdo, I guess. Anyways, just going to skip forward here a little bit because they get into a lot of the yada. But okay, here we go. American bison are known for living in the Great Plains, but formerly had a much larger range. This is where I was a little bit surprised, including much of the eastern United States and parts of Mexico. You'd think that shaggy fur, especially on the hump and around their head and stuff and under their neck, it would just be too hot. I mean, even way up here, even up in the Northwest Territories, they shed that fur in the spring and summer because it's hot enough where they're like, whew, I gotta rub against a tree or maybe a buffalo rubbing stone or something like that, perhaps.
There's a town I know where the hipsters go called Bedrock. Twitch, twitch, when you get an itch, then you do the twitch in Bedrock. Twitch, twitch, and Rock is gonna roll with all his might in Bedrock. Twitch, twitch.
Anyways, I didn't realize that they were that far south, all the way down in Mexico. Both species were hunted close to extinction during the 19th and 20th centuries, but have since rebounded. The wisent, in part owes its survival to the Chernobyl disaster, as the Chernobyl exclusion zone has become a kind of wildlife preserve for wisent and other rare megafauna, such as the Przewalski's horse, though poaching has become a threat in the 21st century. Yeah, it's a disaster up there, but everybody forgot to tell the wildlife and the poachers, I guess. The American plains bison is no longer listed as endangered, but this does not mean the species is secure. Genetically, pure BB bison currently number only about 20,000. Separated into fragmented herds, all of which require active conservation measures. The wood bison is on the endangered species list in Canada land and is listed as threatened in the US of A. though numerous attempts have been made by beefalo ranchers to have it entirely removed from the endangered species list. Beefaloes where they crossbreed them with buffalo or bison with cattle. I'm guessing. Yeah, I'm not guessing. It says it right there. So you get a little bit of the blah 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 there. Let's get into the habitat. So American bison live in river valleys and prairies and plains. Typical habitat is open or semi-open grasslands, as well as sagebrush, semi-arid lands, and scrublands. Some lightly wooded areas are also known historically to have supported bison. They also graze in hilly or mountainous areas where the slopes are not steep. Although not particularly known as high-altitude animals, bison in the Yellowstone Park bison herd are frequently found at elevations above 2,400 meters or 8,000 feet. Yeah, that's up in elk country. The Henry Mountains bison herd is found on the plains around the Henry Mountains in Utah, as well as the mountain valleys of the Henry Mountains to an altitude of 3,000 meters or 10,000 feet. That steer was jacked. Yeah, well, yeah, looking pretty big. Anyway, European bison most commonly live in lightly wooded to fully wooded areas, as well as areas with increased shrubs and bushes. European bison can sometimes be found living on grasslands and plains as well. A herd of cattle Weisent crossbreed Zubron, that thing, is maintained in Poland and Slovakia, specifically in the Carpathian Mountains. Diet, yeah, okay, they're able to ferment cellulose in a specialized stomach prior to digestion, kind of like cattle. Predators, owing to their size, bison have few predators. Yeah, no kidding. 5 exceptions are humans, first on the list, gray wolves, cougars, grizzly bears, and coyotes. Man, it'd take a lot of coyotes to take down a bison. That would have to be a small, sickly, 3-legged, half-starved bison. Coyotes are not big, fierce creatures. I mean, they'll get your house cat or your chihuahua or something. But bison? Yeah, okay. Wolves generally take down a bison while in a pack, but cases of a single wolf killing bison have been reported. Really? Grizzly bears also consume bison, often by driving off the pack and consuming the wolf's kill. Grizzly bears and coyotes also prey on bison calves. There you go. Historically and prehistorically, lions, cave lions, tigers, dire wolves, smilodon. What the hell is a smilodon? Oh, dang it. Sorry. What is a smilodon? Oh, of course. It's a saber-toothed. It's a saber-toothed tiger. Just say it. Another saber-toothed tiger, hyena. Oh, and yeah, the caveman. So all the cave creatures were chasing these things. So needless to say, the buffalo have been around a while. Bison was a significant resource for indigenous peoples of North America for food and raw materials until near extinction in the late 19th century. For the indigenous people of the plains, it was the principal food source. Native Americans highly valued their relationship with the bison and saw them as sacred, treating them respectfully to ensure their abundance and longevity. European colonials were almost exclusively accountable for the near extinction of the American bison in the late 1800s. At the beginning of the century, tens of millions of bison roamed North America. Colonists slaughtered an estimated 50 million during the 19th century, although the causes of decline and the numbers killed are disputed and debated, of course. Railroads were advertising hunting by rail, where trains encountered large herds alongside or crossing the tracks. Men aboard fired from the train's roof, roof, or windows, leaving countless animals to rot where they died. Yeah, not the best. Not the best situation. Martin's here over on the Rumble. Good to see you. Evening, Martin. Welcome. Yeah, the bison thing saddens me too. Although it's not too far of a drive from Calgary to Wood Buffalo National Park to see the buffalo. But, yeah. Vaughn says griffins. For some of those dead dinosaurs, maybe. Although saber-toothed cats were a thing. But yeah, I tend to think that what they tell us are dinosaurs, dead dinosaurs now are actually dragons or griffins or both or something. Mo Sampson in the box says the Freemasons, not colonizers. Yeah. Yeah, Martin covered that a while ago. So the American bison's nadir came in 1889 with an estimated population of only 1,091 animals, both wild and captive. Repopulation attempts via enforced protection of government herds and extensive ranching began in 1910 and have continued with excellent success to the present day, with some caveats. Extensive farming has increased the bison's population to nearly 150,000 and is officially no longer considered endangered species. However, from a genetic standpoint, most of these animals are actually hybrids within the domestic cattle, and only two populations in Yellowstone National Park in the U.S. and Elk Island National Park in Canada remain as genetically pure bison. The rest have got some cow blood in them. So there you go. Well, we might as well just go right to bison hunting. Link for this below as well. And again, viewer discretion advised here. Bison hunting or the hunting of the American bison, commonly known as the American buffalo, was an activity fundamental to the economy and society of the Plains Indians, peoples who inhabited the vast grasslands on the interior plains of North America before the animal's near extinction in the late 19th century following United States expansion into the West. But see, it's not just the plains, quote-unquote, Indians in the vast grasslands of the plains. You can even see here from this picture that we're going from the Arctic Circle all the way down to Mexico, and then from basically the Rocky Mountains all the way to the Great Lakes region and probably right to the Mississippi, I'm guessing. So that's why I was like, wait a second, the Mohawk hunted buffalo? Okay. Because they were way out there. Bison hunting was an important spiritual practice and source of material for these groups, especially after the European introduction of the horse in the 16th through 19th centuries enabled new hunting techniques. The species' dramatic decline was the result of habitat loss due to the expansion of ranching and farming in Western North America. Industrial-scale hunting practiced by settler hunters increased indigenous hunting pressure due to settler demand for bison hides and meat, and cases of deliberate policy by settler governments to destroy the food source of indigenous peoples during times of conflict. And them pesky redskins, how do we get rid of them? Oh, I know, let's just wipe out the buffalo. That's dirty pool right there. Dirty, dirty pool. Yeah, poor bison, right? They didn't do nothing. They're just out there grazing, doing their thing. It's a bummer, man. Long before the arrival of humans in the Americas, bison hunting had been practiced by archaic humans in Eurasia like Neanderthals. Oh, sure. How do we know that? How do they prove that? Oh, it's just going to have to take the archaeologists and anthropologists at their word, y'all. Bison hunting has been practiced in North America since shortly after the arrival of humans in the region. At Jake Bluff in northern Oklahoma, Clovis points are associated with numerous butchered bones of the extinct bison species Bison antiquus, which represented a bison herd of at least 22 individuals, which dates to around 12,000 calibrated years before present, 10,888 BC. At the time of deposition, the site was a steep-sided, dry watercourse that formed a dead end, suggesting that Clovis hunters trapped the bison herd within the arroyo before killing them, showing continuity within the bison hunting tactics from the later Folsom tradition. All right. That's a big mouthful of gobbledygook. But basically, they would, I guess, drive a herd or split off a small group from a herd and drive them into this dried riverbed type dead end where it was like shooting fish in a barrel, like shooting buffalo in a dry creek bed, I guess. And they get back into the split of the subspecies. Religious rituals. Religion plays a big role in Native American bison hunting. Plains tribes generally believed that successful hunts required certain rituals. The Omaha tribe had to approach a herd on 4 legs. At each stop, the chiefs and the leader of the hunt would sit down and smoke and offer prayers for success. The Pawnee performed the purifying big washing ceremony before each tribal summer hunt to avoid scaring the bison. The Plains tribes, the buffalo was one of the most sacred animals, and they felt obligated to treat them with respect. When they were about to kill a buffalo, they would offer it a prayer. Failures in the hunt could have been attributed to poorly performed rituals. You screwed up that dance, Tonto. Now we're none of us are eating. Way to go. Trapping. Before the introduction of horses, bisons were herded into large chutes made of rocks and willow branches or drive lines and trapped in a corral called a buffalo pound. And then they were slaughtered or stampeded over cliffs called a buffalo jump. So yeah, they would just run a small splinter group off the main herd over these cliffs. We have one of these in southern Alberta here. It's called, aptly, head smashed in buffalo jump. Head smashed in buffalo jump. That's right. Apparently that comes from the Blackfoot term for it, translated into English. So great name. It says it all right there. What's this place used for? What do you think? It's called Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump. Anyways, both the pound and the jump archaeological sites are found in several places in the U.S. and Canada land. In the case of a jump, large groups of people would herd the bison for several miles, forcing them into a stampede that drove the herd over a cliff. The earliest evidence for buffalo jumps dates to around 1400. Nice round number there. How do they get that date? Don't know. Doesn't say. Just got to take them at their word. And once again, y'all, it's Wikipedia, don't you know? So, working on foot, a few groups of Native Americans at times used fires to channel an entire herd of buffalo over a cliff, sometimes killing far more than they could use. I don't know about that. A Crow historian has related some ways to get bison with the help of songs, hazers, drive lines of stones, desert kites, and a medicine man pointing down the line with a pair of hindquarters in his hands. The Crows drove many bison over a cliff. A successful drive could give 700 animals. So they would drive them into enclosures, or the people would sneak up and surround a herd, or they would just run them tired. I found some of these interesting. During the winter, Chief One Heart's camp would maneuver the game out on slick ice where it was easier to kill with hunting weapons. Yeah, because the buffalo or the bison are slipping and falling on the ice. And, you know, because indigenous people invented hockey, they would just put on their hockey skates and just skate out there and bash them to death with hockey sticks made by the Mi'kmaq. Nope, that's not true at all. Except for Mi'kmaq making hockey sticks. That's true. Been making those for hundreds of years. But no, they would go out there and, the bison are sliding on the ice, and then they're just easy pickings. Or they would drive them through the ice. The Missouri River confined the buffalo on the weakest ice at the point of winter. When it cracked, the current would sweep the animals down under the thicker ice, and the people hauled the drowned animals ashore when they emerged downstream. Although not hunted in a strict sense, the nearby Mandan secured bison and drowned by chance when the ice broke. Trader observed the young men in the drift ice leaping from piece to piece, often falling between, plunging under, and darting up elsewhere and securing themselves upon the slippery flakes before they brought the carcasses to land. So Castaneda saw indigenous women butchering bison with a flint fixed on a short stick. He admired how quickly they completed the task. Blood to drink was filled in empty guts, which were carried around the neck. Sounds delicious. Each animal produced from 200 to 400 pounds or 90 to 180 kilograms of meat. So the horse introduction changed buffalo hunt. Horses taken from the Spanish were well established in the nomadic hunting cultures by the early 1700s, and indigenous groups once living east of the Great Plains moved west to hunt the larger bison population. Intertribal warfare forced the Cheyenne to give up their cornfields at Beisterfeld village and eventually cross west of the Missouri and become the well-known horseback buffalo hunters. In addition to using bison for themselves, these indigenous groups also traded meat and robes to village-based tribes. See, it says it right there. Not all indigenous peoples lived in teepees and followed the bison around. Kathy Broughton in the box says, I've had buffalo chili before. It was really good. I've never had buffalo chili. I've eaten buffalo, just like roasted buffalo. And I've had buffalo burger, which is lip-smacking good. A good horseman could easily lance or shoot enough bison to keep his tribe and family fed as long as a herd was nearby. The bison provided meat, leather, and sinew for bows. A fast hunting horse would usually be spared his first mount near a bison. The hunter rode on the pack horse until then. The hunters with few horses ran beside the mount to the hunting grounds. Accidents, sometimes fatal, happened from time to time with both rider and horse. Diminishing herds and the effects on tribes. Already Castaneda noted the typical relations of two different plains people relying heavily on the same food source. They are enemies of each other. The bison resulted in the loss of land for many, or the bison hunting resulted in the loss of land for many tribal nations. Indirectly, it often disturbed the rhythm of tribal life, causing economic losses and hardship and damage to tribal autonomy. As long as bison hunting went on, intertribal warfare was omnipresent. And of course, loss of land. That's a nice trick, we'll just pit one tribe against the other by forcing them into ever smaller pockets of land and forcing them to hunt the same herds where there were tens of millions, then there's only a few tens or hundreds of thousands. Slowly whittle, slowly and slowly. So the 19th century bison hunts and near extinction. Here we go. In the 19th century, European settlers hunted bison almost to extinction. Fewer than 100 remained in the wild by the late 1880s. Unlike indigenous practices where hunters took only what was needed and used the whole animal, these settlers hunted them en masse for only their skins and tongues, of all things, and left the rest of the animal behind to decay on the ground. After the animals rotted, their bones were collected and shipped back east in large quantities. Due to the roaming behavior of bison, their mass destruction came with relative ease to the European hunters. When one bison in a herd is killed, the other bison gather around it. Due to this pattern, the ability of a hunter to kill one bison often led to the destruction of a large herd of them. Huh, didn't even know that. Kind of like elephants, mourn their dead, I guess, for lack of a better term. Same kind of thing. In 1889, an essay in a journal of the time observed 30 years ago, millions of the great unwieldy animals existed on this continent. Innumerable droves roamed comparatively undisturbed and unmolested. Many thousands have been ruthlessly and shamefully slain every season for the past 20 years or more by white hunters and tourists merely for their robes and in sheer wanton sport, and their huge carcasses left to fester and rot, and their bleached skeletons strewn the deserts and lonely plains. To this day, you can still find sun-bleached buffalo bones if you're out just wandering around. Cousin Vinny! Good to see you, Vincent. Howdy, bud. How's it going? So indigenous peoples whose lives depended on the buffalo also continued to hunt, and they were faced with having to adapt to the arrival of European settlers in the plains. While most struggled to continue their traditional ways, other plains cultures were forced to adapt their style of hunting. Andrew Eisenberg argues that some native people embraced the fur trade, and that adapting their hunting methods to include hunting on horseback added to the number of bison they could hunt. The United States Army sanctioned and actively endorsed the wholesale slaughter of bison herds. The federal government promoted bison hunting for various reasons, primarily to pressure the native people into the Indian reservations during times of conflict by removing their main food source. Without the bison, the native people of the plains were often forced to leave the land or starve to death. One of the biggest advocates of the strategy was General William Tecumseh Sherman. How ironic that his middle name is an indigenous Native American name. On July 26, 1869, the Army-Navy Journal reported General Sherman remarked in conversation the other day that the quickest way to compel the Indians to settle down to civilized life was to send 10 regiments of soldiers to the plains with orders to shoot buffaloes until they became too scarce to support the Redskins. Yikes. Similarly, Lieutenant General, or Lieutenant as we say, Lieutenant General John M. Schofield, is in the pistol, would write in his memoirs, with my cavalry and carbine artillery encampment in front, I wanted no other occupation in life than to ward off the savage and kill off his food source until there should no longer be an Indian frontier in our beautiful country. Wow, what a douche. This guy was an ass. In 1879, President Ulysses S. Grant vetoed the Act of Congress H.R. 921, which would have implemented protections against non-indigenous overhunting of buffalo. Before the Secretary of the Interior, Columbus Delano, had stated the following regarding complaints about non-indigenous hunting buffalo on native reservations. While I would not seriously regret the total disappearance of the buffalo from our western prairies, in its effect on the Indians, regarding it rather as a means of hastening their sense of dependence upon the products of the soil and their own labors. Yet these encroachments by the non-indigenous upon their reservations set apart for the exclusive occupancy of the Indian is one prolific source of trouble in the management of the reservation Indians, and measures should be adopted to prevent such trespass in the future. or very serious collisions may be the result. That is one huge run-on sentence. Of course, you get the railroad in there. The Pacific Railroad Act of 1862. The West experienced a large boom in the colonist population, a large decline in the bison population. As railways expanded, military troops and supplies were able to be transported more efficiently to the plains region. Just more efficient slaying of the bison. Some railroads even hired commercial hunters to feed their laborers. William Frederick Buffalo Bill Cody, for example, was hired by the Kansas Pacific Railroad for this reason. Then hunters began arriving en masse, as we've heard. You had the commercial hunting for buffalo skins and their tongues for some reason, but their skins were used for machine belts, clothing, and rugs. Export trade to Europe of bison hides. Old West bison hunting was very often a big commercial enterprise involving organized teams of 1 or 2 professional hunters backed by a team of skinners, gun cleaners, cartridge reloaders, cooks, wranglers, blacksmiths, security guards, teamsters, and numerous horses and wagons. A big song and dance. Organized destruction of the Old West and the decimation of the buffalo. Seminoles, people of the Seven Nations in pre-1800s maps before the Constitution. Yes, the Seven Nations, of which the Mohawk were and are part of. The Seven Nations, yes, indeed. So Buffalo Bill Cody killed over 100 animals in a single stand and many thousand in their careers. One professional hunter killed over 20,000 by his count. That's probably bloated. But either way, whether it's 2,000 or 20,000, it's terrible and way too many. The average prices paid the buffalo hunters from 1880 to 1884 were about as follows. For cow hides, $3. Bull hides, $2.50. Yearlings, $1.50. Calves, 75 cents, and the cost of getting the hides to market brought the cost up to about $3.50. $3.50 American. $89.68 accounting for inflation per hide. So the hunter would customarily locate the herd in the early morning and station himself about 100 yards or 91 meters from it, shooting the animals broadside through the lungs. Headshots were not preferred, as the soft lead bullets would often flatten and fail to penetrate the skull, especially if mud was matted on the head of the animal. The bison would continue to drop until either the herd sensed danger and stampeded, or perhaps a wounded animal attacked another, causing the herd to disperse. If done properly, a large number of bison would be felled at one time. Following up were the skinners, who would drive a spike through the nose of each dead animal with a sledgehammer, hook up a horse team, and pull the hide from the carcass. The hides were dressed, prepared, and stacked on the wagons by other members of the organization. Kind of like mule skinning's done the same way, too. Yikes. Please don't. Kathy Broughton says, still sending Cowboy Cody your way. Some guy from Kentucky who got angry because he got asked to leave someplace, brought back a wild raccoon and set it loose in there. Cowboy Cody from Kentucky. I would have sent loose a rabid beaver in there if it was me, though. For a decade after 1873, there were several hundred, perhaps over 1,000 such commercial hide hunting outfits harvesting bison at one time, vastly exceeding the take by Native Americans or individual meat hunters. The commercial take arguably was anywhere from 2,000 to 100,000 animals per day, depending on the season. That's a huge swing, 2,000 to 100,000 per day. Though there are no statistics available. See? So we don't know. All we know is there were perhaps 50 to 100 million bison on the, in North America, and they were hunted down to about 1,000 captive and live at one point because guys were hunting 20,000 by themselves, and some outfits were able to whack 100,000 in a day. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous. So of course there's no stats available. It was said that the 50 caliber or 12.7 millimeter rifles were fired so much that buffalo hunters needed at least 2 or 3 rifles to allow the barrels to cool off. The Fireside Book of Guns reports that the rifles were sometimes quenched in the winter snow to expedite the process. Dodge City saw railroad cars sent east filled with stacked hides. Building of the railroads through Colorado and Kansas split the bison herd into 2 parts, the southern herd and the northern herd. The last refuge of the southern herd was in the Texas Panhandle. So then they started to set up some preservation areas after they managed to get all the indigenous American Indians on all the reservations that they wanted. And then they're saying, okay, now we can start to try to save the buffalo. Heck, we'll put them on a nickel. Why not? Anyway, link below for this. They get into some of the conservation works by individuals as well as wildlife refuges such as Yellowstone and up here in Canada land at Elk Island. Wood Buffalo National Park's another one. Oh, in Montana too. There you go. Utah, Alaska, Mexico. So yeah, pretty rough. Pretty rough. So links below for bison and the bison hunt of the what we call the buffalo around these here parts, the buffalo, Tatanka. So once again, thank you for joining me here for the Calgary Exhibition and Stampede Rodeo wind down here on the show. I'm going to take a mid-show break here in a second or two. And I know what you're thinking. Wait a second. Buffalo in Canada and rodeos in Canada. What does that look like? Probably a little something like that. All right, so as mentioned, in a second here, we're going to take a mid-show break, give you a sneak peek at your upcoming midweek vintage footage. If you're new to the channel, first of all, howdy, welcome. Thanks for joining in on the shenanigans. And as a reminder, if you've been around a friend of the channel for a while here, every Wednesday I upload some old-timey footage, edit with music. I try to keep it Canadian content if I can. Older footage usually. This upcoming Wednesday, it's actually a video about the decline and the resurgence of the buffalo, but it's a slightly longer video, so I don't want to let the cat out of the bag and spoil it. So what I'll do here for the mid-show break is I'm going to share you some Calgary Stampede parade and rodeo footage. It's not real old, but it's old enough. It's from 1970. Hey, the year I was born did. My birth year, 1970. So from, 55 years ago now. Calgary Stampede parade and some rodeo events. And Wolf Carter is going to sing us a tune. That's right. He's going to sing, I believe he's singing My Prairie Rose, which is our provincial flower, the Alberta wild rose. So what are we looking at here? About, I think it's 3 minutes No, just under 3 minutes long. So some Western swing, some country Western music for you, courtesy of Calgary professional rodeo and professional singing cowboy, Wilf Carter. So we'll see you on the other side of 3 minutes. All right, stick around. Be right back. Cheers, everyone.
While I slowly ride along, my heart is filled with song. I'm dreaming of those happy days gone by. Sweet memories like the flowers grow, but the sweetest flower I know, she's my angel, my fair prairie rose. You may search o'er the sea, but you will never see a flower that blooms like on our lone prairie. Twinkling eyes and turned up nose, lips like petals from a rose. She's an angel sent from heaven just for me. Search o'er the sea, but you will never see a flower that blooms like on our lone prairie. Twinkling eyes and turned up nose, lips like petals from a rose. She's an angel sent from heaven just for me.
All right, and we are back. Welcome back, everyone. Howdy. Frankie here, New West Reset. Thank you once again, all you buckaroos, for shooting in. Joining a fella here for another live one. New West Reset Live, episode number 128 here today. Just a little past 6 p.m. local time. Beautiful day here today, by the way. 25 degrees Celsius. That's low 80s, so not too hot. Bit of a breeze keeping things cool. Yesterday was pretty warm. Tuesday was rough. It was 35 Celsius. I think that's creeping up on 100 Fahrenheit, man. Woo-wee. Anyways, I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining me here for the Stampede Wind Down show. We looked at the buffalo hunt, the decimation of the Old West here on the show. In the top half of the show, we were checking out the Wikipedia. Just a reminder about the Calgary exhibition and Stampede rodeo, what that's all about. And then we looked at the bison or the buffalo and the buffalo hunt. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for winding down your weekend here on the Sunday Fun Day. So yeah, rodeo, cowboy stuff. I know you wouldn't think in Canada, but yep, absolutely. We're going to head a little east here in a second.
I like your style, dude.
Oh, well, I dig your style too, man. Got a whole cowboy thing going.
Couldn't help it. Anyway, we're going to head a little bit east. We're going to look at the Mohawk Nation here in a second. But first, let's see how everybody's doing. Let's say howdy to everybody. Stephanie's here, but Babylon Fox. She said, I'm going to the chiropractor tomorrow. Watching those bucking Broncos hurts my back. Yeah. Oof. Howdy, Ubu. Ubu Khan in the box is cool footage and tune. Doc Watson made a good song about Alberta. Ooh, I'll have to check that out. Thanks, Mo Sampson. Giving the 411, giving the heads up. Channel 53. Stand-up bass on that track. Yeah, you gotta love it. Gotta love it. Kathy's here. Howdy, Kathy. Welcome. Baja's here as well. Water the Tree. Good to see you, bud. Hippie Shake in the box, looking after things. Thank you, as always, Hippie, for all your hard work. Welcoming everyone and sharing all the links and everything. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. So let's see what's going on here. Let's have a look at the Mohawk Nation here real quick, and then we'll get into some photos. What do you think? Of course, as per usual, check out the Wikipedia one last time here. Again, links below for everything. So the Mohawk people. The Mohawk, also known by their own name, I'm not even going to try, or people of the Flint, are an indigenous people of North America and the easternmost nation of the Haudenosaunee or Iroquois Confederacy. I see the Iroquois, that I know. They're near Montreal there. Also known as the Five Nations, or later the Six Nations. Mohawk are an Iroquoian-speaking people with communities in southeastern Canada land and northern New York State, primarily around Lake Ontario and the St. Lawrence River. As one of the 5 original members of the Iroquois Confederacy, the Mohawk are known as the Keepers of the Eastern Door, who are the guardians of the Confederation against invaders from the east. Today, Mohawk people belong to the Mohawk Council of Akwesasne, Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte First Nations, Mohawks of the Kanawake, Mohawks of the Kanasatake. I gotta brush up on my Mohawk. 6 Nations of the Grand River, the St. Regis Mohawk tribe, and a federally reorganized tribe in the United States. Okay. At the time of European contact, Mohawk people were based in the valley of the Mohawk River in present-day upstate New York, west of the Hudson River. Their territory ranged north to the St. Lawrence River, southern Quebec, and eastern Ontario, south to greater New Jersey and into the Pennsylvania, eastward to the Great Mountains of Vermont, and westward to the border of the Iroquoian Oneidas Nation traditional homeland territory. So you got a whole bunch of different nations comprised of the Confederacy, language, so on and so forth. History. Okay, first contact in the Upper Hudson and the Mohawk Valley regions. The Mohawks long had contact with Algonquin-speaking Mohican people who occupied territory along the Hudson, as well as other Algonquin and Iroquoian peoples to the north around the Great Lakes. The Mohawks had extended their own influence into the St. Lawrence River Valley, which they maintained for hunting grounds. The Mohawk likely defeated the St. Lawrence Iroquoians in the 16th century and kept control of their territory. In addition to hunting and fishing for centuries, the Mohawks cultivated productive maize fields, or corn, I guess, on the fertile floodplains along the Mohawk River west of the Pine Bush. In 1609, a band of Hurons led Samuel de Champlain and his crew into Mohawk country, the Mohawks being completely unaware of the situation. De Champlain made it clear he wanted to strike the Mohawks down after their raids on the neighboring nations. And in July of 1609, hundreds of Huron and many of de Champlain's French crew fell back from their mission. Daunted by what lay ahead, 60 Huron Indians, de Champlain, and 2 Frenchmen saw some Mohawks in the lake near Ticonderoga. The Mohawks spotted them as well. De Champlain and his crew fell back, then advanced to the Mohawk barricade after landing on a beach. They met the Mohawks at the barricade. 200 warriors advanced behind 4 chiefs. They were equally astonished to see each other. De Champlain surprised at their stature, confidence, and dress. The Mohawks surprised by de Champlain's steel cuirass and helmet. One of the chiefs raised his bow at Champlain and the Indians. Champlain fired 3 shots that pierced the Mohawk chief's wooden armor, killing him instantly. The Mohawks stood in shock until they started flinging arrows at the crowd. A brawl began and the Mohawks fell back, seeing the damage this new technology dealt on their chiefs and warriors. This was the first contact the Mohawks had with Europeans. This incident also sparked the Beaver Wars. It's a bunch of skirmishes with the Dutch and the Mohawk, and then, of course, the Jesuits coming and poking their nose in where it doesn't belong, as per usual. New Netherlands, New York, and of course, smallpox and encroaching on the territories drove the Mohawks further and further west. And that sort of accounts for the buffalo hunting. Just going to skip ahead here a little bit. They were involved in the American Revolutionary War. So after the American victory, the British ceded their claim to land in the colonies, and the Americans forced their allies, the Mohawks and others, to give up their territories in New York. Thanks for helping us fight against the British. Now we're going to take your land, eh? That's brutal. Most of the Mohawks migrated to Canada, where the Crown gave them some land in compensation. It's weird. So they were allied with the Americans, but the Americans they took their lands. So then the Mohawks went to Canada, which is technically British North America. It's part of the British Crown. So if they fought against the British, why would the Crown give them some land in compensation? It's odd. I don't know. PCS World in the box. Howdy, bud. Good to see you. That just seems odd. But anyways, the Mohawks at the Upper Castle fled to Fort Niagara. Most of those at the Lower Castle went to the villages near Montreal. Joseph Brant led a large group of Iroquois out of New York to what became the reserve of the Six Nations in Grand River, Ontario. Brant continued as a political leader of the Mohawks for the rest of his life. This land extended 100 miles from the head of the Grand River to the head of Lake Erie, where it discharges. Another Mohawk war chief, John Deseronto, led a group of Mohawk to the Bay of Quinte. Other Mohawks settled in the vicinity of Montreal and upriver, joining the established communities, now reserves at Kanawake, Kanasatake, and Akwesasne. Man, those are rough for a guy. Excuse my mispronunciation. Mohawk fought as allies of the British against the United States in the War of 1812. Oh, okay, so there you go. And then it just gets into sort of modern culture here, gets into a little bit of their religion. Traditional Mohawk religion is mostly animist. Okay. Much of the religion is based on a primordial conflict between good and evil. Many Mohawks continue to follow the Longhouse religion. In 1632, a band of Jesuit missionaries, now known as the Canadian Martyrs, led by Isaac Yog, was captured by a party of Mohawks and brought to Ossernanon, now Osweirsville, New York. They attempted to convert the Mohawks to Catholicism, but the Mohawks took them captive, tortured and abused, and then deleted them. Yikes! Following their martyrdom, new French Jesuit missionaries arrived, and many Mohawks were baptized in the Catholic faith. 10 years after Yog's death, Kateri Tekawitha, the daughter of a Mohawk chief, a Roman Catholic Algonquin woman, was born and later canonized the first Native American saint. Religion became a tool of conflict between the French and British in Mohawk territory. The Reformed clergymen also preached among the Mohawks. Okay, traditional attire. Historically, the traditional hairstyle of Mohawk men and many men of other groups of the Iroquois Confederacy was to remove most of the hair from the head by plucking, not shaving, tuft by tuft of hair until all that was left was a smaller section that was worn in a variety of styles, which could vary by community. They just plucked that out, man. They didn't shave it at all. Yikes. The women wore their hair long, often dressed with traditional bear grease or tied back into a single braid. Traditional dress, women often went topless in summer and wore a skirt of deerskin. In cooler seasons, women wore a deerskin dress. Men wore a breech cloth of deerskin in summer. In cooler weather, they added deerskin leggings, a deerskin shirt, arm and knee bands, and carried a quill and flint arrow hunting bag. Women and men wore puckered seam ankle wrap moccasins with earrings and necklaces made of shells. Jewelry was also created using porcupine quills, such as wampum belts. For headwear, the men would use a piece of animal fur with attached porcupine quills and features. Should that say feathers, maybe? No, I don't know. The women would occasionally wear tiaras of beaded cloth. Later, dress after European contact combined some cloth pieces as well as wool trousers and skirts. Longhouses, yes. They didn't live in teepees. Lived in longhouses, permanent structures, till they were forced to follow the migrating herds. But initially, so there you go. Link below the Wikipedia official story, his story, the official narrative of the Mohawk. Yeah, that's a commitment to style, right? I'm just going to pluck out tufts of hair. Kathy Broad said I had a Mohawk once. Did you really? Wow. Gee whiz. Gee whiz. Mo Sampson says, long house, like Europeans before Rome showed up. Yep. Yeah, that's right. BCS World says, you sound like you expect Wikipedia to make sense. Yeah, that's true. It is the Wikipedia, after all. It is the Wikipedia. Anyway, what are you going to do? All right, so what do you think what do you say we have a look at the photographs? Huh? I said not a huge file, not a huge folder, just a couple dozen photos or so. And again, viewer discretion advised here. We're going to be seeing some photos of bison that have already been hunted. So just so you know. just so you know. We'll start off with, the typical piles and piles and piles of bison bones left to bleach in the sun, apparently. And then loaded on rail cars and shipped back east. What? You know what? Of all the articles we looked at in the Wikipedia and all of the goofy narrative that they spell out, they didn't say what the bones were used for. They said what the hides were used for. You know, the skin and the hides and they didn't even say what the tongue was used for either, as a matter of fact. This picture looks like it's been a little bit manipulated too. It looks like they may have added some lines here to, you know, so that the guy's shirt sleeve is separated from the pile of bones in the back. Looks like they painted or drew a line around this guy here too, maybe. This guy's holding up a set of, this might be elk. Those are elk antlers. What the hell are they doing in there? But anyway, just load them up, boys. What are these little kids doing here? Come on, kids. Let me take you to the massive pile of bison bones. So this photo is from Montana. Not the best. He's with his rifle and where's your horse there, bub? This one, they decided instead of putting them in piles, we're going to stack them neatly and make a bloody big wall. A wall that goes all the way down. It's got to be probably a 6 or 7 foot wall. This is just a kid, I think. I'm guessing as a teenager maybe, so I don't know. What's this, a 10-foot pole? So you got a 7-foot wall. It's a nice split shot. So yeah, it's good old CP rail. Yeah, I'm just going to load up them bison bones. Look at the giant piles. It's almost as high as the rail car. Ridiculous. Old World, Michigan, in the box. Howdy. Howdy, partner. How you doing? Good to see you.
Howdy, partner. Howdy, partner. Howdy, partner. Partner. Howdy, partner.
A mountain. This is literally a mountain. Looks like they've got the stacking down to a science. Like, we know how to stack. We've been stacking so many of them. We've gotten so efficient at doing it that we know how to stack them where they don't slide down and it'll support the weight of this guy. This show off. Yowzers. Yeah, basically above ground catacombs. Yikes. Yikes. You know what I'm saying? And here's just as big a stack, but this is just the hides. These are just the buffalo skins. Whew. Yoza. It's a pretty big mountain of skins or hides, man. Yeah, just get your horses and wagons and we'll load these up. How many trips with this sorry setup is it going to take to get these to the train? Oh, yeah, I can't even. Yeah, I would agree. Hippie Shake says it's horrific to kill that many animals for no need. Well, for their own agenda, so there was a need, but a sensible-minded person would say it was a needless slaughter, but of course, they felt that they needed to do it. The size of this beast, you know, these bozos gathered around for the photo op. Look what we done did. That's great, Jethro. Great. Thanks. Kind of goofy hat is this? These guys don't look Canadian or American. Who are these guys? Maybe I'm just used to seeing this kind of hat. That's your standard Wild West hat. Kind of like a cowboy hat, but this is your buffalo hunter hat, I guess. So these are throwing me off. It's like a pillbox hat with a brim on it. I don't know. This one's been photoshopped, old-timey Photoshop, but you get the idea. Look at this guy. I'm the mighty hunter. Probably didn't hunt this thing, though. This looks like it's in a photographer's studio. And a lot of the photos coming up here in this next part of the file or the folder are going to be from professional photographer studios in New York and Toronto, New York City and Toronto, for the most part. Some of them, I think, maybe I want to say another American city, maybe Chicago. But anyways, it's some of the Mohawk peoples in their full traditional regalia brought into the professional photographer's studio to get portraits done. Yeah, maybe. Babylon Fox in the box says Russians. They do kind of look like Ruska. You know, with the goofy hat. I don't know. This photo was marked Prince Albert and Buffalo Bill. Apparently, Prince Albert formed an acquaintance with Buffalo Bill. This is Prince Albert here, I believe. And this is Buffalo Bill Cody. But apparently, they formed an acquaintanceship or a friendship. And Buffalo Bill invited Prince Albert out for a hunt when he was visiting over here in 1913. There's a whole article about this, but I didn't bother with that. I just grabbed a photo. All right, so now we're getting into some of the professional photographs, but they're great because you can see the full regalia of traditional clothing. They're going to be wearing the best of what they've got because they know they're going to be getting their picture taken. So we get to see what I get I get really jazzed about is just the overall craftsmanship and the artistry involved with the jewelry and the clothing. The beadwork, even on the moccasins or on the footwear, right? All of this outstanding detail. This kid looks serious too, man. Serious. Well, this is from Kansas. All right, there you go. Where in Kansas, I do not know. Look at this, eh? Wow. These headdresses look very familiar, don't they? Reminiscent of what we often see, the capitals on top of pillars or columns, but also reminiscent of the headdresses of other indigenous peoples. Again, all of this intricate work, all hand done, of course. Just amazing. Jamestown, New York. Got a couple of children's there. Look at the little ones. All dressed. Look at all the jewelry, the beads. Again, all this needlework. Lots of very familiar symbology. Of course, as usual, right? Here too. Nice headwear as well. Look at this fella. This looks great. A mixture of, modern European with traditional indigenous people. It looks great together, actually. This guy looks fantastic. Again, look at all the symbology up here. Reminiscent of many, like what we see in church windows. The frequency, you know what I'm talking about. Cymatics. That's what it is. Kind of, right? A little bit, because of the it looks a bit like a fez, although it isn't a fez. You can see that there's another piece of fabric that's kind of folded over here. And then this comes down, but yeah, it kind of looks like a fez. Of course, Shriners always want to put medals and medallions on themselves to make themselves look more important. Look at this little guy. Just all the attention to details, just amazing. Like even the way they fasten something, it's going to be decorative. The shells and everything as well. It's beautiful. And there's that star symbol again, a 5-pointed star symbol. Like the flowers and the birds and that, sure, that I could sort of understand. But a 5-pointed star is, if you're going to represent the celestial bodies, sure, but why limit yourself to 5, right? There's that headdress again. All of this stitch work is just so incredibly. It's got to take, just imagine the man hours or the woman hours. It's got to have to have taken weeks and months. It's beautiful. What you got in your satchel there, bud? Mansfield, it could be Ohio, maybe. She does not look pleased to be getting her picture taken. I don't wanna. Yeah, for sure. You can tell, Look, we're actually seeing smiles in old photographs. Both of them are smiling. The kid, not so much, but I mean, the kid looks young enough that doesn't really know what the hell's going on. But yeah, they're smiling here. He's got a bit of a smile too. Her as well. So yeah. Unusual to see smiles in such old photos. Yeah, I would agree. Channel 53 says that's super rare, the smiles. Kathy says in Mansfield, Ohio, probably be this the Shawnee. Ah. Well, these were all labeled Mohawk, so could have been mislabeled. These lions? These look like lions. They might not be, but it sure does look like a lion here and maybe here. You know, with the African lion, right? With the big mane. Sorry, it gets a little picoulated if I zoom in too much. Yikes. See, look at all these. Got any beads there, bud? Oh, I have a lot of beads, bud. I got a lot of beads, eh? It's just a tiny little canoe. What's going on there? It's got to be a prop. See, in the Wikipedia description of their traditional dress, well, you know, they wear buckskin. It sounds pretty boring. Well, they wear a hell of a lot more than buckskin, I tell you what. I mean, yeah, it's buckskin, but I mean, all of these fringes and all of this needlework and the beads and the attention to detail, the pride in what they're wearing. It's not just a buckskin tunic. You know what I'm saying? Again, a little bit of the modern meets traditional here. But even the little kids, you know, the cuffs on their little outfits, all of this needlework. Let's see what's going on here. Looks like two people dancing, playing drum. You seeing that? That's what it looks like to me. It looks like a dancer and another dancer and a hand raised, and this looks like a drum, maybe. It's a sweet chapeau there, my friend. Palmyra, New York. This guy's got his dog with him. Sure, why not? Good boy. Good boy. Give you some pets and some ear scratches. There you go. Porcupine quill and shells and beads. You get, and leather. You get all of this. And the feathers, of course. Can't forget the feathers. Outstanding. Now this was labeled Mohawk. It says Mohawk down here. This guy's a chief. But this is a first for me. I do not recall ever seeing a pierced nose. What is that? The septum, the center part that separates your nostrils there? I do not ever recall seeing that on a Native American, whether it's a Canadian Indigenous First Nations or an American Indian. So that's a new one on me. Look how tall this dude is, by the way. They're pretty much standing, I would say roughly, I mean, the difference is negligible here. The standing the same distance from the camera. Look how tall this bugger is. I mean, unless this guy's 5'4", this is one tall dude. Ooh. Traditional warrior club. Babylon Fox says, I'll bet they lived in all the fancy buildings. It would seem to me that if you're dressing like this, you've got some refined tastes, you're not going to be living in a hut made of sticks and dung. You know, they lived in permanent dwellings. They did not live in teepees or wigwams or whatever you want to call them. So we're told, and so the Mohawk themselves say by their own oral tradition, and the younger generations keeping up with the traditions. Many do, don't they? Curtis in the box says they all look like South American natives. Well, again, some of the feathered headdress like this, or like these ones especially. By the way, you don't often see a lot of facial hair on indigenous peoples either. Not known to be, rocking the handlebar mustache or heavily bearded peoples. But this guy's got some. Vaughn in the box says the giants were the bloodlines of the Nephilim. The Nephilim and all were wiped out in the flood apart from Noah and his kin. The giants taught them how to build post-flood, diluvian and pre-Christ. Yeah, I mean, some of these structures, one wonders, without modern cranes, all they had were hoists and counterweighted hoists and hemp rope and beast of burden and manpower. Some of these big stone blocks were told weigh, so many tons. Well, you'd think if a dude was 20 feet tall, and then of course you multiply his strength accordingly. This would also explain all the 20-foot tall arched doorways in a lot of old world buildings, but that's a whole other story. Look at this cute little girl. So there's the tiara style that they were talking about. So that's going to be porcupine quill and beads. It's the multi-layers of the fringe and the buckskin too, I mean, that's it's not just grabbing a sharp stone or later on a knife and, just slashing away at it here. It's created layers. There's knots tied in these things. Often there's beads tied to them as well. Again, all this needlework here. What are these vans? They look like checkerboard vans. Good for you, kid. Look at this detail along the sleeve opening here, too. Bukan says her bracelet. Metal. Looks metal, right? Brass or gold or silver. It's metal. It's got a shine to it. It's got to be metal. Kathy in the box is so intricate. Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, that's right, Curtis. She's a skater kid. Vans off the wall. Got my old school checkers on. Bod. This is a portrait of Nancy Johnson, a Mohawk. This is from 1890. Again, obviously it's a posed professional photographer's studio, but nonetheless, it affords us the opportunity to see this lovely young lady sporting her, probably what is her favorite or what she would deem as her most fancy or whatever outfit. You know what I'm saying? Looks like silk almost, or satin. I would say silk, though. Again, there's a 5-pointed stars. These other symbols, maybe this is the sun. These are sun rays shooting out. I don't know. But again, all of this detail, it's just lovely. This looks like a metal bracelet as well. Nancy Johnston. This is in Hamilton, Ontario. Okay, there you go. Not sure how traditional of a last name Johnston is for Mohawk, but be that as it may. See what I mean about the layers of the fringe? Just layer upon layer upon layer. Shorter layers, really long layers. These are tiny, thin little strips like spaghetti or like linguine. It's got to just take forever. Look at this symbol here. It's very interesting. Oh, take care, Vaughn. Vaughn says I got to head off and get the boy. Yeah, we'll chat soon. You betcha. You betcha. Drive safely. The boy. That would be his son. Yes. I think this is the last photo in the file, anyways, in the file folder. Yes, indeed, it is. Lovely young lady with this layer upon layer of fringe. Nice moccasins too. I don't see a bracelet on her, but yeah, absolutely lovely. So what did you think? Flying Axe Blade over on the Rumble says, dance while the mosh pit spins. That's what I would recommend as well. Maybe get a stage dive or two in on there too if you can. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I was quite surprised. Again, I landed on the Mohawk Nation because I was quite surprised that the traditional habitat of the bison or the buffalo went as far east as Ontario and New York State, like basically almost all the way to the East Coast. It's sort of assumed because, you know, we see it in the movies, and I guess that's why, right? It's Hollywood trying to pull a wool over our eyes and whatnot, but, you know, you always see in the Wild West movies, well, it's out in the prairies where the buffalo, right? The dances with wolves. I mean, that's what we're seeing. But I guess it lends more credence to their narrative, the official narrative that, oh, the Plains Indians were nomadic peoples because they had to follow the herds of buffalo. Well, all right. So then how do you explain the Mohawk and some of the other nations that were not nomadic, but still occasionally hunted buffalo? Ever mosh with Navajos? No need to answer. Ah, okay, gotcha. Not too many Navajo out here in Alberta. But I think I get what you're... I think I see what you're saying. You know, it would seem to me that any nation of indigenous peoples that supposedly did not follow herds of buffalo and were nomadic or migrating type tribes, constantly living in teepees or like mobile temporary shelters. Well, permanent shelters, but not permanently affixed, right? When you compare to some other indigenous nations that were coastal or around the Great Lakes that didn't necessarily migrate, I suppose it does push the narrative that their clothing, their jewelry contains decorations and embellishments that are much more intricate and time consuming, because that time isn't being taken up heel toeing it all over the prairies or the Great Plains, or later loading up everything on horses and off we go to keep following the herds of Tatanka all over Hell's Half Acre, right? But I mean, that narrative's blown out of the water too, because if you've seen any of the Great Plains indigenous people's clothing and jewelry, it's just as intricate. It's just that the items that were used and the symbology is different. And also, again, I must reiterate that not all buffalo hunting tribal nations were nomadic. So, you know, two narratives, they kind of cancel each other out. So I think it was a lot more complex in the old world than we're led to believe, with some of these simplifications and dumbed down versions that we find on Wikipedia. Or again, you can reference handfuls of other sites, and basically they just cut and paste what it says in Wikipedia. I think sometimes quite literally they just cut and paste. Babylon Fox in the box says the expensive portraits belie the narrative. My great-grandparents had posed photos, but they were rich. Yeah, it costs money to, first of all, go into the city or into a big enough town that would have a professional photographer that would either have a studio or would pay to rent a hotel room and set up, you know, the background and bring a couple of trunks full of props with him, so that he could stage these photos and then bring in these indigenous people, family members or individuals, and take their photographs. I mean, this is not, you know, it's not some guy with his 5 and dime store camera out in the Wild West prairies taking candid snapshots. I mean, these, again, you know, you could tell by the way that the Mohawk people were dressed that are posing for the photos, that, I mean, this is, you know, this isn't just a spur of the moment thing. And yeah, it costs money. Yeah, I see what you're getting at. And I would say probably as well, yeah, the mound builders were before the, quote, native indigenous peoples. I think the Native Americans and indigenous Canadians have been bamboozled and lied to just as much as anybody else. In fact, more. They've been double bamboozled, because they're getting the same phony narrative everybody else is getting now, plus they got their own specific phony narratives. I mean, if it wasn't for oral tradition and some of the symbology in their artwork and some of the lyrics in their songs, everything would have been lost to a lot of these indigenous folks. But yeah, I would say the mound builders were probably some of these aforementioned giants that we were talking about. I mean, there have been skeletal remains found within some of these mounds, and they were tall, 9 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet, something like that. Heck, we saw that one photo of that one indigenous dude shaking hands or posing with that white dude, and he was way taller. He was like a head and a half taller. Yeah, basically that's right. Yeah, they didn't just leave their teepee and ride into the city. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those photos cost a pretty penny, as we say. So what else have we got? I got some, getting ready to wind this thing down here pretty soon. We're coming up on 2 hours. But before I go, I've got some stuff here to share with you. just some fun. Like to leave it on a little bit of a fun note here. But before that, this was something that randomly came up in my YouTube Shorts feed, which is weird because I don't really watch a lot of YouTube Shorts. But YouTube, for some reason, likes to push the shorts, so it keeps just throwing this stuff at me, and I rarely look at it. But this came up, and I thought, oh, this I gotta save this, and I gotta share this with all the buckaroos. Check this out. Hopefully you can see and hear that. Okay. If you can let me know, please, that would be great. Great. Thank you. Just wait for it. Wait for it. Here we go. Here we go. What was setting off the car alarms was this wall is about to collapse. So it pushed up against the back of one guy's car and set off the car alarm. And that one guy was like, yeah, I'm getting my car the hell out of here. But yeah, wait for it. Yikes. Those folks are having a bad day. Those folks are having a really, really bad day. Yeah, wow. That's what I said. Wow. Yeah. Water the tree. Oh, wow. Channel 53. Oh, shit. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, whoa. Yeah, title. Crazy. The retaining wall did not retain. You're absolutely right. Babylon Fox. Flying axe blade over on the Bumble. The guy filming. Insurance. Yep. Quick on the draw with the camera. There's advantages and disadvantages to cameras being everywhere or being readily available. We're kind of slaves to these damn devices, but certain circumstances when they come in handy. Yeah, more than likely that's what it is. The insurance wouldn't cover it. It's an act of God. Really? No, it's just a poorly built retaining wall that wasn't thick enough to retain the amount of terra firma that it was retaining. Yikes. Not having a good day at all. You know who is having a good day? This little cowboy right here. This little cowboy is having a great day. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty cute. He's got his little Shetland pony there, his little miniature horse in the back of his little miniature horse trailer, pulling it with his little miniature truck. That's pretty, yep. That's right, Turtle. Turtle says it right there. Yeah, precious. Yeah, Kathy, OMG, so cute. Yeah, the kid's family's probably got some cash. Curtis, one rich kid. Yep. Thought it was pretty cute, though. Come on. Pretty cute. Cummins diesel, too. Yeah, well, only the best for a 7-year-old kid and his pet horse. All right, one more here. This is an oldie but a goodie, and this will be the last quick little video clip I'll share with you. And this is going to be the last sort of cowboy themed until next year's rodeo here for the Calgary exhibition at Stampede. Back to other regular shenanigans themed stuff next Sunday for the show. But this will wind down the cowboy themed stuff here. An oldie but a goodie.
In the early days of the West, the peaceful town of Snidler's Gulch was threatened by one of the meanest desperados of all time, Cowboy X, a man who left his mark everywhere. It's Cowboy X. Letter X! Whoa! Letter X! Yippee! Cowboy X left X's everywhere. On the houses, on the streets, in the schoolhouse, X's on the horses, X's on the town hall, even on the good citizens of Snidler's Gulch themselves. X! X! Yippee! The citizens finally decided that Cowboy X had to be stopped. Throw him in jail. Turn him out of town. Wait, what if we just ask Cowboy X to please stop marking up our town with X's? He's got an idea. It's so crazy it might work. Here comes Cowboy X now. X! Woohoo! X! Yippee! X! Cowboy X, would you please stop marking X's all over our town? Why, sure I'll stop. Oh. From now on, I'll be known as Cowboy O! Yippee! And the citizens of Snidler's Gulch lived happily ever after because they really weren't very smart.
Check out that mute. Yeah, no audio muted. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you very kindly. So that's going to seal the deal here today for Frankie. New West Reset and New West Reset Live, episode 128, Buffalo Hunt, Decimation of the Old West. And again, as a reminder, links for everything we covered below, as well as how you can get a hold of a fella. Kathy, I got your email, the notification, by the way, so thank you once again. Very kind of you. Very generous. Thank you very much. And as per usual, if you're watching this after the fact, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Comment your comment in the comments, as the kids would say. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget Wednesday, vintage footage, Buffalo related. Friday, boots on the ground. And we'll see you back here next Sunday for episode 129. Also, keep your ocular sphericals locked onto the channel. Make sure you hit all the bells for notifications that don't work. Another episode of Knuckleheads coming up shortly. We're going to be visiting the nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario. That's myself, Frankie at New West Reset, and my partner in crime, Chris from Old World Exploration. Road trip with Cousin Vinny coming up. We're going to Drumheller, where all the dead dinosaurs are here in Alberta. But we're not going to be looking at that nonsense. We're probably going to look at all the stuff that none of the tourists really look at. We're going to be looking at old world buildings in Drumheller. Other road trips throughout the summer. A couple of projects on the go. Still trying to nail down a time where I'm going to try to do it maybe this week, because guy's on the first week of his vacation here this week. So I'm going to try to nail down a time to do the walking tour with a Freemason of some of the old buildings here in Calgary. A friend and co-worker of mine is pretty high up in the Freemasons, as I've made mention before. A couple of videos on the channel regarding the Freemasons Lodge here in the city. Did a tour of the inside of the lodge and so on. But yeah, he offered to take a guy out to do a tour around and give us the official Freemasons history of when they built some of these old buildings, apparently. So that'll be coming up sometime. So again, keep it locked onto the channel here. And as well, of course, Reset 1700, my feature film length documentary. It's coming up very quickly. You're going to start to see some promotional material up on the channel as well, in the form of full-length trailers and maybe some deleted scenes or some artwork and so on, and music from the movie as we get closer to launch date, and all kinds of other stuff. So there you go. It's going to seal the deal. Frankie, New West Reset. Until the next one, take care out there and have yourselves a good one. Thanks again, everyone, for joining me here and winding down your weekend. Y'all come back now, you hear?
It's a mystery. It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma.